Our next guest today is Lisa Lyons, and beautiful woman. I'm a little bit scared though because she's very proper.
Oh, okay.
Although I'm really keen to find out if I'm going to pull her up on her British etiquette, because Lisa is a wedding and event designer, event planner, and etiquette expert professional. But I have seen some etiquette professionals in America say things about tea drinking that's just absolutely not true, and we don't do it.
Well, we don't know how to drink tea here.
When nobody sticks their finger out, can I just say? That's not a thing.
But it looks so cool.
we kind of like think that that's a kind of a silly thing. What's the actor that sticks his little finger in it?
Yes.
Yeah, you know who I mean.
Yes, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, so she's beautiful and lovely. I mean, whenever I think about her, or if I'm going to shoot a wedding or I meet a wedding couple, she's the first person I would think about to refer to for wedding designing. Okay. She always looks stunning and just so well put together. And have we worked together? I'm not sure that I have worked with her, but I've worked around her. So yeah, I'm interested in that. I think that she changed to become an expert in etiquette around about 2020, so we'll find that out today. Okay. And also Dog Mum was a cast member for Disney, and big Disney fan. Obviously, I can't relate. So I want her to talk a bit about that. In terms of etiquette, what would you, if you had to address your etiquette, what do you think?
My own?
Yeah.
Wow.
She'd love your sneeze.
My Minnie Mouse sneeze?
Your Minnie Mouse sneeze, yeah.
I just feel like it's just not something taught anymore in general.
Well, she teaches children, so.
Yeah, my boys, I'm sure, could use a little etiquette lessons. I'm always fascinated when we have to go out to fancy dinners and things like that. And, you've got a million place settings, and it's just the little minute details of fine dining that are just simply not taught. But you really do need them, or should use them. So
having your Julia Roberts moment with your escargot.
Yes. Yes, and flinging food across the table. I would like to know more about that. But I'd also love to know, how much dancing should you be comfortable doing for proper events? What should you know? Do you need anything? Do you really need anything?
I think it should be taught in schools again. There is not a man I know that can waltz me around the dance floor, and I'm disappointed about that.
I know. I couldn't do it either.
I've tried to train the husband. He even had private lessons paid for by me.
And still can't do it?
No, not really. Anyway, let's see what Lisa has to tell us. And I know she's had an interesting few years, and she's super happy now and doing so well. Love her online persona. So, yeah, looking forward to having a chat with her.
Can't wait to meet her.
Perfect. Hello and welcome. My name's Kerry Sheffield, photographer and CEO of my own successful business. I'm also the host of She Networks, a great believer in lifting up women and loyal supporter to those that are around me. We are all surrounded by incredible women who are breaking the molds in this thing called life. Behind every successful online persona is a real person facing struggles, failures, and living real life stories that don't always have happy endings. We will have an honest conversation, dispel this myth of perfection, and find out what they consider a success, how they achieved it, and learn what they are still reaching for. You are not alone. Join the conversation. So hello. Today we're with Lisa Lyons, wedding and event designer, event planner, and etiquette expert professional. I love all that. So I'm so interested to talk to you for lots of reasons. Basically, I crush on over all the weddings that you work on and the events that you do. Whenever I meet a new couple, and I'm not really in the wedding photography world very much anymore, only when they ask me, but I always refer to you because, no, I do. For me, in Orlando, at least, you are the consummate professional and the person that everyone should come to.
That's incredibly flattering. Thank you.
No, but I do feel like it's unquestionable that you are the leader in the field in this area. I don't know of anyone that supersedes that. You do a beautiful job. And I want to get to the etiquette part of it, but not just yet, because I feel like there was a reason why that come about, and probably to do with pandemics and things. But
very fair.
Yeah, but I want to address it. I was having a conversation earlier with Stephanie about English and tea drinking, and I've seen American etiquette professionals talking. Like I recently watched it on Wexham, the football show, and I'm like, what is she talking about? That's absolute nonsense. We don't do that. But it was just interesting. Right. But that's a whole conversation. So
there might have to be a part 2.
Yeah, and also just how you learn all of that stuff, because there's so much and there's not enough of it in the world, and we're going to make it a thing here today. But what I want to start is just really at the beginning. Sure. I want to know about you, where you come from, your education, the start in life, and what your ambitions were, and we'll skip, hop and jump and get to where we are today.
I love it.
So tell us, where did it all start, and where are you from, and tell us about Lisa.
So I'm actually from the Bronx, New York. And I was raised by my mother and my grandparents. She was a single mom for quite a while as well, and started out there. And really humble beginnings. Fun fact is I have always been a dancer, and a ballerina in particular. And I had a scholarship to Ballet Hispanico in Manhattan, New York.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
Wow.
So my ethnicity is Puerto Rican. My grandparents came from Puerto Rico, and hence the scholarship to Ballet Hispanico. And in that, I got to study all forms of dance, which was thrilling because, of course, I love tap. I just was rubbish at it.
I can't believe that.
Well, because I was lyrical, I was a little bit more lighter on my feet and things like that. And I loved ballet, and I still do, but I admire a tap dancer so much. But anyway, that's a side note. It kind of fed into the production and the design that I do today.
Can I just say though that from the Bronx and your ethnicity, you just speak like an English princess. Like it is interesting.
There's also a reason for that.
Okay, good. Okay, so do you know what I mean?
Yes,
you give no clues.
No.
As to anything.
No.
It's a well-polished young lady that sits before me. I mean, now the dancer and the ballet completely makes sense to me because you have that poise. You skip through the room in your soft little pumps and without making a sound. So I see all that of that. And these are all complementary things. I think for me that you kind of epitomize everything that I'm not. And that's not to say that all is wrong with me, but I feel like when I look at you, you make me want to be a better woman.
That is so kind. I hope my daughters are listening to me.
Me too, and you have your 2 daughters, right? Yes. But sorry, I interrupted, but it was a good point to interrupt at.
No, I appreciate it. And so ultimately, we went a little bit over the bridge upstate, and I went to Catholic school my whole life, including my first 2 years of college, and then I was like, I think I'm good. And my grandfather at the time was infirmed and lived in Miami, and I took that as an opportunity to move down. And
infirmed, what does that mean?
He was ill,
really? Okay.
and just unwell in general. And we were always very close, as I mentioned, because growing up in the Bronx, you can imagine, my mother and I were on the 22nd floor, my grandparents were on the 6th, and her sister was on the 5th. And it was just all elevator rides away.
Yeah.
And so when I was living with him, I went to FIU for some classes. And sadly, about 18 months after I moved down, he did pass away, but no regrets because I was right there.
Yeah.
And I was 19 at the time, and I actually did an interview with a college student yesterday, a little bit about this story, and telling her that I was taking classes just to take classes. I felt like we were all funneled into university and college, and I did because everyone said I could, but I was truly aimless. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I sort of gave up on the dancer dreams because auditions were brutal, and I don't think I had the fortitude for that. I have so much admiration for your daughter.
But dancing, somebody told me once, quite recently, one of my daughter's peers, her mother, and she's a doctor, but she said that when you go into the career as a dancer, you don't go in it for the money. You need to have money to pay for that career, because her daughters are both professional dancers, and one of them, we won't even get started about the health, mental health and physical health issues she's had, there's eating disorders, all those things. She said, you need money to become a prima ballerina, because...
Of which my family did not.
Yeah, you need to be funded.
Yes,
and then even when you're in it, unless you're a supernova, you're not making money to live. Like, it is really just a creative dream.
And a passion,
Yeah.
true passion. And, and here we are today. I sit before you at 54 years old with still the greatest of
everyone just
love
gasped
for it. Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you for serums and things like that.
Yeah,
However,
you look amazing.
Thank you. So I was telling her, and I'll tell anybody, I was aimless. And I tell my children this when they get really hard on themselves. Right or wrong, it was how I felt. All I really knew that I wanted to do was be a professional. I wanted to wear nice clothes.
You were born professional.
I wanted to wear nice clothes as a professional. And I wanted something very flexible, because above all of that, even at 19 years old, I knew I wanted to be a mother. Yeah. And maybe it was because I have no regrets with the way I grew up. I love the way I grew up, but like my mother couldn't go on field trips and
she
things
worked,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah, she worked. And, she had to commute into the city. She worked on Park Avenue and worked her way up.
What did she do?
With Pharmacy Bristol Myers Squibb, and she became an admin assistant. But I remember going to secretary school and, all of that. And
was your mother like you, so, well turned out, so beautiful, and,
My mother is beautiful. She is 76 now, I think. Yeah. She was a young mom, but her skin is gorgeous.
Well, thanks, Mom.
Yeah, thank you. And to her, like my grandparents, just like, thank you. Yeah. I think it's, those Puerto Rican genes. Too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we're blessed. Yeah. But so I just was like, I guess I'll be a teacher. I guess it depended on the week. I just knew, that's sort
it's
of
very
what I
young.
wanted.
It's so hard, isn't it, on the generation when you're 19, 20, knowing what you want to do with the rest of your life.
I can't imagine.
I mean, my career has been an evolving door.
Right,
but,
right. And we sort of talked about that at one point too. You were flowers and things like that. And so then I would do, I was a student aide and thinking about that, and, loved it, but only really in the sense that, okay, I guess I'll have summers off, and you know how that goes. And as an office manager for a medical office and things, just trying to do anything and everything.
And this is all still in Miami?
All still in Miami. I didn't move to Orlando until 2000, when I was pregnant with my second daughter. And
so you're married at this point?
Yes, I was. Mm-hmm.
And so you have two girls. How old are they now?
27 and 23. Actually, my youngest goes by they.
They, yes.
Mm-hmm. And so Sarah, my oldest, who I call Sarita, she's 27 now, and she was about almost 4 when we moved. The kids are almost 4 years apart, and Carolina was born here. And I just knew my time was sort of running out in terms of what to do. And I was like, I've got to do something. And there the event business was born. Right. It was also an escape out of a marriage I was in at the time.
But cast member?
I was, yes. That led into it. So
yes. I have you down here as dog mom, Disney fan.
Yes.
And cast member.
Dog mom is very important to me.
Yes, because of the rescues. And I've loved your rescue stories. But tell me about, because I also know that you have your Disney crew, that you go off and you do your cosplay. And I have no FOMO because I can't relate because Disney. But
you did a pretty mean Alice in Wonderland thing, as I recall.
Oh, yeah.
One of the last times I saw you.
did. So look, listen, give me a challenge and I'm going to rise to it. But do I want to go to the parks and stand in line? No, sorry. Unless you're going to sponsor me, and then I will stand in all the lines. But cast member. So tell us about that.
So that was part of it. I have always loved going to the parks. I've always loved taking the children to the parks and things like that. I love the magic. And again, again, when I think about things full circle, I love the production that is Walt Disney World.
Yes.
It's just always such a spectacle. And to know me is to know that I am a spectacle. And so I primarily got the job there, and it was part-time, and I was a pirate.
Oh my
And a
gosh.
Jasmine understudy because of the dancing background.
Yes.
Only I had just had my second child, and I was like, maybe I could be the understudy to the understudy because, you know.
No, can I ask how old you were then?
So I had Gato when I was 30, 31.
Okay, so
Yeah.
and that's interesting to me. I like that. So it was just, was it easier to get into Disney then? Because it's kind of hard. It's not easy to become a cast member,
I
right?
found it very easy, and I was telling the story to one of my children, and I was like, I don't know who I thought I was. I love my younger self, just a tangent, because I really had no fear, and I feel like I have so much more fear now to try things.
Really?
That's just another story for another time.
Yeah, but
I went in there, and they're like, okay, and like immediately they were just like, where? Well, what park? And I'm like, well, I really only want Magic Kingdom. So like now I'm making demands in the casting, you know? And then they're like, oh, okay, we have some openings in Tomorrowland. I was like, ooh, I don't really like the costumes over there. It's like, what else do you, like, who did I think I was?
But I love that about you, and I'm discovering that now then. So we've been around each other, but you're such a lady to me. Now I know you're a fierce, forceful lady that you don't want to mess with, which I thought I love even more, which is great. And you're in absolutely the right business to be that person,
Right.
because you need to be
I'm
tough
a project
and everything.
manager
Yeah,
every Saturday.
absolutely.
You
So
know?
you worked. How long were you doing that?
2 years, and I hated to leave, but and so the reason was primarily to get that training, because whether you're in custodial, human resources, or at the upper level management or in operations, you all have to go through the same training there, which is called traditions. And it's of course, the history of Disney World and in Disneyland, but also customer service, which I mean, like Disney or not, I think we can all agree is unparalleled.
Oh,
So-
there's nothing wrong with Disney.
Yeah.
It's just all the people that go.
Yes, right, and I'm with you there. So it was really the training, which I still lean on, and when I bring on new team members or when I even bring in new vendors, I implement and follow to this day.
Wow, that's amazing. So you were with, you left as a cast member. What were you working? You
No,
went
so
to
I was still home with the children.
So yeah, they're
but
young
I knew my time was running up. Gato was about 2. And, you know, I couldn't stay home forever, nor did I want to. I mean, if I really thought about it, there's only so much tennis one can play. I mean, love it, you know, and all those
I feel
things.
you. Yeah.
And I needed something fulfilling.
And did you have a sense of direction as to what you were going to do?
Yes and no.
Right.
So I felt like this churning, and I kept saying, like, I would sit with myself at night, and I'm, you know, at the time, this is when Oprah had made that proclamation, like the aha moment. I'm like, I just don't know what this aha moment is.
And I think we get more of those. I don't think it's a one-time deal.
I agree, and that's what I'm saying. If I really think back, there were these whispers all through my life that I didn't know better to listen to.
Yeah.
And that's why I was a late bloomer, but there's nothing wrong with being a late bloomer, because I wasn't ready yet until I was ready. And
I think all of the things that you've done have been leading to that point.
Led me there.
Absolutely.
And I took the children to dance class, and the dance teacher came up to me, and she's like, she got engaged, and you know, they had been with her for a few years, and I was like, this is amazing. And she's like, you plan all the parties here, and you do such lovely things, and I love your style. I would pay you to help me. And I was like, oh, you don't have to pay. I just was excited that she asked. And so she's like, no, we have to put a number on it. I was like, $800. I didn't know. And I did it. What I did not know was that she was...
You should have charged her 5 times as much.
No, I mean, her parents lived on a gorgeous horse ranch in Sorrento. That's where the wedding was. So on acres. So now my first, baptism by fire, I'm renting tents, I'm trying to get a generator, and I'm like, I better get this to be legitimate. So I started taking coursework and things like that. I had like 6 months to do everything. And she was also a magic dancer, in which the athletes were there. There were some there.
My
and
gosh.
I just right out of the gate just got referrals from there.
Wow.
And I was like,
So when
Wow.
was this? It's funny when you said about 2000 earlier. I'm in that generation where I think that was like 10 years ago, but it's not, is it? It's 24.
January will be 21 years.
Yes.
21
Wow. So 21 years ago, first
and
wedding.
they're still married.
I love that. And what a great start to their business. So was it after that event you were like, okay?
Oh, it wasn't even after, it was during it. Like,
Right.
I would meet with a florist, and again, like, who do I think I am? Like, she's like, and I really like these, like, red roses, but with red berries. So I was like, we're not doing berries. Like,
Yeah.
who did I think? I've always had opinions.
But that authority, I feel like, and you're probably seeing it now in the industry. We see all these people that have a wedding and then they go and they think they become a wedding planner.
Right.
And then, so they're asking the most benign questions online. And I know everyone has got to start somewhere, but go and start with an education. That'll do, right? Don't just pick up a camera. In my case, the world's a photographer, they're not insured. They don't know how to use lights and all these things. And I'm reading it and I'm like, I'm beside myself. I want to be kind and loving and gentle with these people. But I went and re-educated myself at 30. I had photographers on this pedestal, they were amazing people, but now in this industry, and so I love the whole etiquette thing that you're doing. I feel like the two marry themselves nicely, and that can we not bring back the professionalism that once used to be in this very auspicious industry, which is weddings and events, and and you're in that circle of people that are the top echelon in the demographic, if you like, your audience. You work with the most amazing people, and that's vendors too. So you've just started, you've just done this wedding. What is it? You get the Black Lisa Bible out, and you start building your portfolio of all the people you want to work with. And how does that work? When you just first start, how do you get the best people to come and work with you? How do they become your vendors? Because I know it's a two-way street.
It definitely is. This is good, and this goes back to what I said. Like, I loved 31-year-old Lisa, like, just with reckless abandon. And so I was reading all the same magazines, and I wasn't buying like DIY bride.
Yeah.
I knew what I wanted in terms of clientele and peers, industry peers, and a couple of things happened. We slipped right into that recession also in 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
This, I don't know if a lot of people know this or not, but this is when sort of the day of wedding coordinator was born. Because everyone panicked. And at the time, there were probably two in particular ladies here in town that were really doing spectacular weddings. And I mean, I knew I wanted to be right there, and in my mind, I was there. There was no doubt I was going to be. Like, I just knew it. Talk about visualization.
Yeah.
But they started to offer this day of wedding coordination, and the more I would look at it and research and like, listen, if you're not researching your competition, you're not doing it right. You know, that's one way to niche yourself down. And I don't know if that's what I was consciously doing. I was in survival mode. So now we've slipped in to, I have become a single mother at this time. So I am very, very good friends with the children's father. We're still close. We still spend every Christmas together and all of that. But it was something I needed to get out of. And so I'm in a panic because I'm also building a townhome for me and the children. And I was like, this recession. And so something had come out from the Ritz-Carlton, and I'll circle back to that a little bit later. And that was, they were looking for a planner to do sort of this day of thing for like certain weddings of theirs. And I wrote an email, and I hovered over it, and I was dabbing my brow, and I just said, this is a business model that I'm not interested in, but I'm so flattered that you asked. And if you find yourself in a position where you have clients that want a full service planner only, I hope that you will feel confident in passing my name along. Well, how many clients at the Ritz-Carlton, like, those clients weren't worried about the recession.
No.
And it didn't really touch them.
No, recession proof.
So I got all those weddings.
Wow.
all those
And
weddings.
when you say all those weddings, what are we talking about on a monthly, annual basis?
Yeah, so I mean, if they were I at least got the referrals. So
Yes.
to this day, I work there the most.
Yeah.
And 2 to 3 a month?
Wow.
During
That's
wedding
massive,
season, which
yeah.
is significant.
And a lot of those people, I imagine, come into town for their wedding, do they? So
Yes,
did you have to travel very often, or did you find you could do most of it remotely? I mean, how does that look? What does that look like for you?
Yeah,
and you're a young mum too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
With young children, yeah.
So at the time I was working, from home. I did get a tiny, I don't even know if it was 400 square foot office at the time for by appointment only.
Yes.
For that credibility, I've always felt very strongly about credibility, and I would tell the kids, I'm like, I hope you like macaroni and cheese, because this is what we might be eating for a few years.
Yeah.
I'll slip in some protein here and there. But between the education and the credibility, to this day, I feel very strongly about. I will live a lot more meagerly to make sure those things are in place.
Yeah.
So I remember at the time, that's the days of landlines. If I'd have to take a call at home, the girls knew the phone that had all the princess stickers on. I said, if you see this, don't come near mommy at all. Everyone knew I was a mom, but at the same time, this is what I wanted to put forth.
I love that princess stickers.
Yeah, we do what it takes,
Yeah. So we're going to talk about the etiquette thing shortly, but can you remember a point in your career where you were absolutely the most proud? And also, I'd love to hear a juicy story without giving any details of the worst failure at a wedding. So, and it doesn't have to be your failure. And I can't imagine you having any, but I'm sure you didn't have a failure. You just had issues you had to provide a solution
beyond my control.
for. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the most proud. You know what? The most proud moment, I think I'd have to say, goes hand in hand with the biggest failure.
Really? Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. So tell us about that.
So this was, and it's well known, I don't even care. So this was at a wedding at Four Seasons. Mm-hmm. And this was about 3 years ago. Yeah, about 3 years ago. And incredible wedding, expensive wedding. Mm-hmm. Weddings aren't just a financial investment, right? I try to tell everybody that it's an intense emotional investment, and I take both of those very seriously on behalf of my client. And so I've recruited a team that I've worked with through and through, over and over again, and there was one particular vendor, and I had some. They were a relatively new vendor for me, right. And I had some incredibly successful weddings and events with them, so I didn't think this would be any different. And it was a drape company, and this was a Jewish wedding, and so I had a full room
of drapes.
Drape, and particularly right behind the band there was one, and it's a very dark black velvet drape with it looks like stars coming through, so it looks like you're looking into the night sky. And this was a Jewish wedding, and I say that only because we had they have to get married at sundown. Yes. And so we had our cocktail hour that preceded the ceremony, so that was done already. And they were in the middle of this ceremony, and there's a balcony that overlooks the lawn for the ceremony, and my 2 assistants were down there, and of course we were in each other's ears, and I said, please let me know how much more time we have, whatever, because we were racing to the finish line.
I'm starting to get palpitations, because you haven't been a wedding professional.
The hair you see on my head has only just grown back from this experience. Yeah. And so I remember a gentleman at the time that worked there, his name was Sasha, he looked at me, he's like, congratulations, you did it, because that was a really tight getting it done. Yeah. So much so that I slipped $200 to another production team of mine, and I was like, help them get this done, and we got to go. And with that, I turned to him and I said, Sasha, thank you. And then all of a sudden I just saw a bunch of light, because the drape was systematically collapsing all around the room. And by the time I got in the room, I saw the band. That's what started. Under the drape, crushed some drum kit or something like that, and they were flat on their bellies like this, not knowing what was happening. At the time, I had a florist that was standing on a table
to hold it
panicking,
up,
saying, help me, and it was just like dominoes. It was going down.
Oh my
and
gosh.
I sat there and I felt all the moisture leave my body.
I know, you feel like
you're talking, you're like,
You're going to throw up.
And
yeah.
I just was like trying to process this. Of course, it felt like 30 minutes. It was 3
And were there
seconds.
guests in the space?
No, but it was finishing. And so I can hear Jessica, who's the right side of my brain. I love her dearly, my assistant. She's like, what's going on? What's going on? Because she could hear me like,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm just like, we can't let guests in. And she's like, what do you mean? What am I going to do? Like, it's ending in like 5 minutes. And I'm like, we absolutely cannot let guests in here. And she's like, tell me as best as you can what's going on so I know what to do. And
The world descended.
I said, it's not safe.
No.
And it wasn't.
Wow.
So then Sasha runs in and he looks at me right away and he goes, what do you want to do? He's like, and I realized at that moment, as that project manager, it was my decision. It was my decision for the Four Seasons. And by the way, because of what happened, their instructor, Four Seasons crew, they had to leave. They were all back at the house. They were not allowed to be in the ballroom.
Yeah.
So it was just me and my production team. And so on behalf of Four Seasons, my client, myself, my vendors,
You
I
had to
had to make a
decide.
call in 3 seconds.
And
I said, we got to get it out of here. I said, open that air wall and we got to drag it out of here. And so it was. And then I looked at Sasha and I said, get every single bottle of champagne you have in this hotel.
Yeah.
And I told Jessica, get the photographers and have them go to the stair, where
the
the
stairs.
fireworks chandeliers are,
Yeah.
and let everyone think we're doing portraits of every single guest before we get in here, before they get in,
Yeah.
and just keep passing champagne. And so then I run. She goes, "Please help me explain. I don't even know what to say." And she's like, "The recessional's starting now." I run downstairs, and actually, it was the groom's parents that were my clients. And I look at them, and I'm like, "Mazel tov," and they're like, "Yay, we did it." I'm like, "I need to have a word."
Yeah.
And I whisked them over, and they were like, also like, "What?" And I was like, "Please wait till I can come back for you. We're figuring this out," and whatever. And before I knew it, I'm in the ballroom and everyone's dragging drape out, which is not easy to do.
no, I can imagine. One pair,
And
let
they're
me
in the
know.
back
I
of the
know how
house.
big
They're
that
in the
room
back
is.
of the house because they look at me and they go, "How much drape can we save?" And I said, 0 drape.
None.
I said,
gone.
it's not safe. And so next thing I know, I don't know how long, they're in the back and they're looking at, and I see them like this, just gobsmacked what was happening.
Yeah.
And they're like, "You're right." And I'm like, "We can't." And she's like, "What are we doing?" And I told her all the provisions we had in place, and they were very calm and collected about it. And I looked at my lighting team and I just said, "What do you have in the kit?" And Jim with
Yes.
Firefly is a dream. And he said, "I got what you need." I said, "I need movers. I need textures on the wall. We need to make it look like this was always supposed
How
to
it's
look
supposed to
like this." So sure, did we open the doors late? Yes. But in it, I can tell you to this day, I'm personal friends with that mother of the groom. I've been invited to their home for like parties and everything. So in that was also my greatest triumph.
I think the sign of professionalism is not making a mistake. And you didn't make a mistake, but you know what? It's how you
I had to own
recover from it and what you do about it. The thing that most business people fail at, and I'm not saying I'm perfect at this either. You know, you get overwhelmed and whatever, and you know, you made a good call. The adrenaline probably kicked in. I really want to know how the next day was for you, apart from tidying up everything. It's how you deal with it and how you fix it and how you communicate and then people that stays with people.
Yeah.
The people that knew about that failure were of that supplier was the bride and groom probably because they designed the room with you and the parents or whatever, but everyone else would. I mean, it's a perfectly beautiful space. I'm sure it was incredible until that moment, but and it probably created a learning curve for a lot of people in the industry and in that space. I mean, there's probably things now that have been implemented because of that moment.
Oh, yes. I mean, again, if you can't learn from it,
Well, that's wonderful.
What are you
that
doing,
did that.
right?
But tell me about the next day, or even like once. How did that? I bet you were super sensitive about everything else for the rest of the night, though.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. In fact, I couldn't eat, obviously. I would not leave that ballroom for anything.
Was you giving up the career after that?
I was.
Because I know things like that make me go, I'm not doing this again.
I just
I'm
kept
done.
saying, like, why do I do this to myself?
Yes,
I would say things like that.
But thank God you were there.
And
you were the one.
When I need water, I would go, over on the other side, which is where the vendors were. And I remember going over there at one point, and there was a mountain of drape, and I saw like my floor, like she was passed out in it. And
Have I seen those pictures? Were there any pictures of that around? I feel like I've seen a picture. Maybe it wasn't.
I would not have I would never have the chaos, but
no, not of the chaos.
The actual wedding, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
it's on my
I
Instagram.
just feel like I saw a picture of you like lying back on something, but it could have been a poster moment. I think it was a happy moment, not a stressed out moment.
And blessed Tabitha with Firefly actually got ill. She just got ill in the bathroom, and everyone was just shell shocked in the other room, and they're just like, "How are you doing?" And I'm like, "Fine." Like
well, you were in adrenaline. The adrenaline kicks in. I think that I'm a noisy, chaotic person, and I'd never describe you as that, but I am. And I always used to apologize, because I was a planner for a little while at the Flores, and before I did what I'm doing now, I used to say to people, I apologize for the person that I'm about to be, but the only people that, to me, that are important are the bride and groom. So if I say to you, don't sit there, go do something, it's not because I'm mean and I'm not working twice as hard as you. It's because the only people that matter are them, and we're here to make
for them,
and make their dreams come true. And actually, one of the things that bothers me in the industry now is the lack of awareness that we're making the day of the life, what's the word I'm looking for? The best day of someone's life. I feel like some people do this every week, and they've lost that.
I completely agree.
Special. I see it. I did a wedding recently, and like I said, I didn't do very many. I'm trying to do bridal portraits. The ceremony's just ended. They're clearing the chairs behind us. Like, we're trying to take pictures. Like, can you just give them a minute? Why are staff walking backwards and forwards? Right. Why is there no special space? Why are you not creating magic? Because we're here to create magic.
Exactly.
And I see that you create magic all the time with people. What other things annoy you in the industry that you've had to like get rid of?
Dress code.
Really?
Dress code. I actually have a dress code document that I now have to, no offense to your career, but the photographers are the worst.
Not me. I'm always well dressed.
It's just, and I get it. You know, you're up, you're down, you're here, there, and everywhere, but it doesn't mean Lululemons and like Birkenstocks or something.
So in my second shooters, and my assistant Stephanie will tell you here that I'll say no open toe shoes, no sweatpants. We wear black, and it's smart casual, but smart comfortable actually. So, but yeah, I mean, I wear fun sneakers, but my sneakers are nice sneakers. They're like fancy sneakers.
Understood. It's just.
But they're a storyteller sneaker.
And there's like, jeans, and I approached one, and I don't mean to call out photographers. It's just.
No, it's true. It's photographers and guests are probably the worst.
You know, and they're like, but they're gray, and I'm like.
Yeah.
They have grommets. They're jeans.
Yeah.
Don't argue with me. I even had one, and again, it was my first experience, and I know they would never mind me using their name, and they love this conversation we had to have one time, but we had the first time I tried them out, and it was a Four Seasons wedding, and they showed up, and they were like in Wrangler jeans and gray T-shirts that said staff on the back. Mind you, they were never going to be front of the house, right? So I sort of understand where they were coming from, but it was, post-event, I'm like, let's have a lunch, let's have a conversation. So you have to understand, these people are spending a lot of money. Yeah. And if mom or someone wants to look at the ballroom and see how things are going, I cannot say no. And so when they come in, you are a direct reflection of me because I brought you here. So I'm going to need you to get uniforms. Yeah. And they did. And
it should just be a standard thing.
They're super polished, right? And they all have matching shirts, jackets, belt, like the shoe down to their sneakers. And it makes me so proud. It makes me so happy.
My couples are normally shocked when I turn up because they go, "Oh,
same.
You're wearing makeup."
Same. So, right. Sometimes when one of my assistants can't work and I have to recruit other help, and I know they help at other weddings and other planners, and I was like, you need to know my dress code's a little different. Yeah. And I know we're going to be sweating. I get all that, but we have to wear black cocktail dresses, black hose, and black shoes. Yeah. And the hose are, yes, they are mandatory.
The British audience, that's tights.
Pantyhose.
Pantyhose. It's the word panty. But
it is.
Let's go back a little bit. So I've known you for about 7 years.
Gosh.
I've been here 8 years. But I don't know how we first met.
Did you? Well, personally, I do remember this. what was it, maybe 5 years ago, I had a Christmas party at Alphonse Inn, and I was like, oh, you should come, or 4 years ago, something like that.
So I think I've known of you around, but maybe that was when I created the She Group. I did you liked my portrait project.
Yes.
And I think that's how we started talking.
I would wake up and look for it. I loved it.
So that was that. And I think, connecting with women on that level. And I love the fact now that the wedding industry is such a female orientated industry.
Dominant.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, and many, many more female photographers, which I would say is probably a happy place for you, well, in terms of some things. So you did go on to marry a wedding photographer. And then,
yes.
were with a
videographer.
Videographer. Okay. Well, I've not ever bothered looking them up. No interest. But so no longer with that person.
No, ma'am.
But they were very dominant in the industry too.
Yes.
I imagine you were quite a tour de force together.
Yes.
Well,
Yes,
them riding on your coattails, but because you were the leader in the industry.
Well, it's kind of like the circle of life, if you will, right? Because I'm the first stop typically, and so then I feed everybody else. But back to when I was looking at like where I wanted to work and who I wanted to work with, this individual was certainly on my list, and so and we had some working opportunities, ahead of our relationship and marriage, and I really, really, really admired the work first and foremost, and we were very, very good friends for a few years before this, but so. Safe to say we do not work together any longer.
No, but I mean, that you're in a very wonderful position. You're super happy, and your life is great now. I think it's nothing to do with your relationship. I'm just so proud of you as a woman.
Thank you.
In that you shone so brightly in that whole time, and I'm sure you had very, very dark days.
Very dark.
But that whole relationship, I didn't know you, and really very well, but everyone knew.
Yes.
And so when you're in an industry where everyone is looking in on your life, in a way it's almost like paparazzi, right? But everyone can see that. But you just continue to grow and blossom and flourish. Do you think that maybe there was parts of your relationship were hindering your growth? Or do you just think in spite of that, I don't know, I feel like you were set free and you just did amazing things?
I think it's fair to say a little bit of both. I was definitely set free. Of course, did not see that at the time. When you talk about dark days, those are the dark.
You didn't share that. You have been so eloquent and beautiful in this whole situation. I've never seen a bad word said. And people air their lives now, and obviously you're a fine lady. You would never do that. But I feel that you're running a business, you're a leader in the industry, your life is very much in the forefront, certainly to the industry, but you just rode above it. And I think it's testament to that, the fact that you are still the preferred choice of everyone. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people pick sides, and we all know which side they picked.
I think we do. I think we do.
Yeah.
Yes, that was extremely challenging in that it was so incredibly public, and for me to carry on like it wasn't was probably the greatest challenge of my life. The other greatest challenge of my life is my youngest in particular was very, very close to him, and there was a betrayal there. So I will say that was my priority. So I certainly wasn't going to do anything that was going to jeopardize that. That just truly made them spiral, and that was probably the hardest part for me to see, apart from
everything,
all the other garbage.
And being a woman, and I've been married before, and having had failed relationships, we beat ourselves up so hard about that.
Oh, and in this, in this particular circumstance, there were reasons that would make me beat myself up for it. But that part actually went away quickly. And to know me too is, you can use all these wonderful things that you said about me, a lady and everything, but when time and time again, and my mother would say this, and she would say, no one can ever put you in a corner. She said, you will come out scratching like anyone I've ever seen. She's like, you're like a cat. I could drop you from a 9th floor window and you'll always land on your feet. And, she did me a great service telling me that as a young child, because I believed it. And I was like, I don't know what you mean at 9 years old, but I believe you, and I was actually being reflective about this as recently as this week, because I had a really magnificent wedding last weekend that was challenging only in that my venue was odd and everything, and it was great from start to finish. And when you talk about the hindering part, I thought, my work is so much bolder and better now. Yeah. And I had probably a year after the split, someone came to me that I was working with in the Ritz-Carlton, and it was another really great wedding. And it was a little darker and moodier, and I'm kind of known for lighter and airier things. And
what a classic. I feel like your style, I think of Vanity Fair. I think whenever I look at your weddings, I think about those fabulous late 90s, early 2000 movies with Hugh Grant in, and it's just
the best. Yeah, they're all like my own little personal dreams. But this one was dark and moody, and I was like, oh, I did it! Like I flexed those muscles, and it was actually Jim with Firefly. He put his hand on my shoulder, and he's like, I got to tell you, since you're split, your work has never been better. And I was like, that's the part I think. Yeah, I felt like a little bit of me was being suppressed before in that relationship, because
I think that's called a fragile ego, and you were protecting that. And and I don't even know, I'm not in the room, but I could tell probably that's an issue. Yeah. And but no, and I love that you've done so well. I remember, well, you were always doing well anyway, but I remember talking to you before, and then you were moving into the etiquette thing. So we're going to talk about that, and just tell us how that came about.
So you were right earlier. It was born from the pandemic, but
because the event industry just went
because we were closed. Like, not only was the world closed, but events were closed. Even if the world was coming back, and obviously and unquestionably that was going to happen, it was just when. I just didn't know if there would be a career to come back to. Because it was indefinite. We didn't know. But again, if I go back in time and listen to those whispers all along, this is something I have been interested in since a little girl. And my grandparents had this coffee table book in their apartment, and I think it was like on the Kennedys, but I just loved it because they showed White House pictures, and I just was like,
that's it, Kennedy weddings, that's who you are.
Well, yes. So Jacqueline Kennedy is just like, a be-all, end-all for me. And that picture of her lighting the taper candles, and and the protocol, and they would talk about who had to sit next to each other, and I was there every day. My mother worked and my grandmother watched me, and she'd say, "Are you in that book again?" It would have dog. That's all I would do.
Imprint.
Yes. And so, fast forward the children. I'm a huge proponent of Scouts, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, and all that. And I had my.
You just love a costume.
I love a costume. I love structure. Yeah. Particular Scouts, just so good for young girls that lead into women. And so, of course, I was, that mom and everything. And when it came time, we're looking through the book of badges. I'm like, oh, my gosh, etiquette badge. We're doing this. I'm teaching it, whatever. So I did it for my oldest troop, and then another troop heard about it. And they're like, will you come to our troop? And, the kids loved it. And I'd go, okay. And then finally, Citrus Council of Orlando, Girl Scouts, asked me to teach it for Citrus Council. And this only occurred to me,
Put it out in the world, though, and it'll come to you.
And so then, of course, when I started to get certified in weddings, you take tests on many things, 100% on the etiquette. Yeah. So crazy. So yes, now we're shut down. I am, and I haven't admitted this to many people, I will today. So I wanted to continue to pay Jessica, but we were dry. We had no events.
Yeah, I was going to say,
So I started delivering groceries with Shipt. Wow. And to make sure that I can still pay my mortgage and
do what has to get done.
Oh, yeah, I will always. Nothing is beneath me.
Wow, and that's admirable. You were a sole trader, and you're keeping her too.
Yeah, and there's nothing I won't. Yeah. I wouldn't do anything I wouldn't ask someone to do, whatever that saying is.
I understand. Yeah.
So in doing that, I was just again thinking, and it just came. I don't know how it just came to me, and I was like, I think I'm gonna look into this.
Yeah.
And so I looked into it, and at the time I was dating my now husband, and he was like, okay, like I don't know anything about it. We're talking.
He's getting scared that you're going to be making him.
Well, we
like,
could be more
you know.
opposite in that way. He's an ex-Marine, and he's dropping F-bombs, this and that, and he's like, if you think so, and whatever. And I was like,
Did you notice I haven't sworn once today? But anyway.
So I looked into it, and just like the weddings, I wasn't going to do anything or make any proclamation without getting myself accredited, and I needed that credibility.
I love that about you. And this is what you need to, with your etiquette, and I think education, you need to get involved with the forums or do something, because there is an absolute lack in the wedding industry now of accreditation,
it's not
just
regulated.
Integrity. Venues are asking for insurance, but that's all they're asking for. I mean, and I'm horrified. We're old school, right? I'm looking around, seeing what's going on, and there's a need for it. And etiquette, I would love to see that go into schools. And I don't mean, sitting down with kings and queens of Europe and, but we know you're going to do that.
I will be doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. But so tell us, I mean, we're coming to an end here now. I love seeing your content. I love seeing you post pictures of decorating your house. It gives me food for thought. But where do you want to take this? What's your new ambition?
Yeah.
And what's your this was another aha moment. And I think I'm sitting, maybe we're here today, but I'm sitting on that brick wall of, I'm not quite sure. I'm waiting for the universe to show me.
I'm a big universe believer. Bigger than anyone. Very few people know that about me, but I am a huge and firm believer. And you have to know I'm not done, right?
So,
but we're in transition, right?
Yeah.
So I have adult children.
Yeah.
My youngest is now talking about maybe leaving Florida because sadly they don't feel
they're not safe.
here.
I get that. My children don't want to. They're in the arts. They don't necessarily want to come back.
Yeah.
Not to live, at least.
Yeah, and so now what? Now what, right? But I have some ideas. I'll say it out loud so that I do put it out into the universe. But I think I am going to now seek a life coach accreditation. I'd love to have another woman consider me their comeback coach, because I've come back many times, and it's great to come back. Yes. And you grow, bless.
Yeah.
You grow from coming back, and you can share so much when you do come back. So I think that's next for me, and I'd love to build a lifestyle brand too.
Yeah, no, and I can see that from you. I mean, knowing each other, not that we hang out or anything like that, or I'd love to, but although I'm not coming to Disney, but I'll dress up though and have the drinks with you guys. But you tick all those boxes for me. So, the way you present yourself, the way you talk, the way you work, the jobs that you do. I'm not blowing smoke up your ass over here.
No, you're very real.
Yeah. So I see this stuff that you do, and there needs to be more people like you in that industry and in many industries. I see a place where companies should have an etiquette director, just how people don't seem to know how to behave anymore in any circumstance. And it's awful because there's been this Karen label. And I think there are a bunch of people that are that, sorry to use that name, but there are also a bunch of people that just expect a certain standard of life, and we seem to have forgotten. I feel like all bets are off and all boundaries have been lifted and everyone's just behaving appallingly, and it needs to come back. And I do think, life comes in circles, but we do need to be coached.
I agree. I never thought it would ever come to that, but I agree. It all very much seems like common sense to me, but it's a fun fact. A lot of my most popular etiquette tips that you'll see are my personal triggers, right? So the one that performs the best is the nail salon etiquette, because you know what it's like for us to get into a nail salon between work and everything. That is precious time.
Yeah.
I don't want to listen to your FaceTime call.
No, I know.
Things like that. So to me, it's common sense, but evidently it bears mentioning.
I see a book in your future.
Yes, well, Oh, that sounds good. Well, my business class to first class, the business etiquette one, is doing quite well.
Yeah, so talk to us about that a bit. Well, before we wrap up, where can people find you? What material are you putting out? And when are you, releasing your etiquette podcast? Because I think there's a place for that. And where can people tell us all the things?
Thank you. So it's my name, Lisa Lyons, events.com, and on there, on the store, you'll see the business class to first class workbook. And that is for sale on there. But I do this presentation as well, and I've done it for Gaylord Palms. I've done it for a private social club, the Stovall House in Tampa. Bay Hill Jewelers Stacy called me on to do it for their team. And I'm getting the most remarkable positive feedback from it, which, again, I can't take it for granted. I think, it's what I know. It's so well received, and that makes me so happy. I sort of pride myself on the delivery of it. I tried to be very attainable and real, and not coming from a place of royal standards or anything like that, though I'm putting that out into the universe as well.
Absolutely.
And it's funny you mentioned about the podcast. I was thinking YouTube first, but
same thing.
Yeah, we will.
The two married together.
We will see.
I know a guy.
Yeah. We will see, but.
Yes.
Constantly, in fact, this week I put in a Google Doc just a brain dump of so many things, and I'm just not done yet.
I've been listening to Mel Robbins quite a lot, and she puts a lot. She's kind of out there, and she's hyperactive. But the reason I started this, I've been meaning to do this a long time. And it was just the technical things. I'm like, why am I trying to make this happen? Get somebody else to do it, and they can do it better than me. And
then we need to talk about that, because that's what's my delay has been.
Like I said, literally, this is a one-stop shop for everything. Yeah. So I can tell you all about that. But just get it done. Just go do the thing. The only thing that will happen if you don't do it is that you'll live in regret. I think that we need to get these things started. I'm going to finish here by saying that you are everything that I see as fine, but I don't sit in front of you. You don't make me feel less worthy. You don't make me feel bad about myself. That's a good thing. That's a lady.
That's a lovely thing to say.
No, but it's true, because some people you meet and there's an arrogance and there's a demeanor. There's a thing about them that, and I've spent my whole life trying to prove my worth. So love being around you.
Thank you. I'm just a girl from the Bronx.
I love that. What a way to finish the podcast. Just a girl from the Bronx. Thank you, Lisa. It's been fabulous.
Carrie. Thank you.